Okay, I just got finished watching Transformers Dark of the Moon. Thought I'd record a few thoughts here. I liked the first Transformers movie, it was pretty fun, knew exactly what it wanted to be, but the second one, it was pretty terrible. I mean, had a story that seemed like they were making it up as they went along, and and you couldn't even care about any of the action sequences because they were so poorly shot, so quite frankly, I wasn't looking forward to this movie that much. But then, the more things I heard about it, the more I thought they might be getting it right, and the best thing I can say about Transformers Dark Moon is considerably better than Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. It doesn't mean it's a good movie on its own, though. Well, first of all, there is no reason this movie had to be as long as it is. This movie is about 2.5 hours long. Could have been an hour shorter easy. I mean, there are entire subplots which could have been cut out there, and some of the action sequences are the action sequences in this movie, especially near the end, they can be pretty impressive. But the problem with doing action sequences like this, you have these huge action sequences, large scale, following several groups of characters at the same time. The problem with this is that the longer it follows one group of characters, you start to wonder what the other group of characters are doing at that time. So, and when they finally jump into the action sequence, it seems almost like a Deus Ex Machina. It's like, And as a result of that, you can probably predict it. Well, oh no, this guy's about to get killed. Bam, he gets saved at the last minute. It's re... Yeah. These little sequences, as impressive as they can be, especially in the 3D, 3D is very good in this movie, but as impressive as they are technically, there's no reason they have to go as long as they are in terms of story and acting. Well, what can you say about the acting in a movie like this? Of course, we have Shia LaBeouf as the lead. He's pretty impressive given the dialogue he's supposed to recite and the story he's in. Like in the last movie and the movie before that, he really doesn't have much to do, and his character really serves no purpose to the story for the most part. But you have to admire him for going along as he does, especially since he's more or less admitted he doesn't like working on these movies. He thinks they're pretty bad, which I can't really argue with him on that, at least from these last two ones. And Josh Duhamel also is back. He had a really small part in the second one. He was actually pretty impressive in the first one. He plays one of the army men who works with the Transformers against the Decepticons and the other villains they have to fight. Now, the thing about Josh Duhamel and his group of people is, really, these are just humans. The Transformers are, multiple story-high robots. What can humans really do against these guys? I mean, you see them flying into the sky on these glider wings, and you're just wondering, what do these guys think they can do against giant rampaging robots? Of course, they find ways to defeat them. They're given weapons just before they're about to fight the robots that we've never been informed of before, but still, yeah, he's Josh Duhamel and the other actors who play soldiers. They are troopers. They're put in fairly silly situations, but they at least try to be believable. You have to admire that about them. Other actors, of course, Megan Fox was kicked off the franchise after the second movie, and now Shia LaBeouf is given a new love interest, played by a former model named Rose Huntington Worthy, I believe. She's British. She can't act very well, and you can basically tell that the screenplay was written with Megan Fox in mind. They just changed a few words here and there and inserted some random line about Megan Fox leaving in between the second and third movies, which, well, I guess it's probably the best you can think of for a movie like this. And other actors, we have John Malkovich in a completely unnecessary part as Shia LaBeouf's boss. Shia LaBeouf works at this company. They never tell you what the company does. We only know that he works in the mailroom. And we have Frances McDormand as the head of the NSA, I believe, working for the government. And Ken Jeong from The Hangover. He appears in a part that's supposed to be comic relief, but it only really gets a couple of laughs. I mean, and really he's just overacting and mugging like crazy, and you're actually kind of glad when this guy dies. I mean, that's the only part I really laughed at during the entire movie, when he gets thrown out of a building, which I don't really think I should have been laughing at that. I mean, and anyway, about the comedy, the first movie worked because it had a sense of humor. It knew it was a ridiculous setup, and it knew that it had that it was basically playing to the fanboys of the cartoon series from the 80s. The second movie had far too much comic relief. We don't want to get into the whole racist robot skin and mudflap thing, which thankfully has been all around this time. Although there are a couple more robots that seem to be written in their place, probably given the scenes of the skins and mudflap were intended to be given while the screenplay was being written before they were written out. But anyway, the second one had gratuitous comic relief, and that made it totally unsympathetic. You just use like fingernails on the blackboard. Now the problem with this movie, it takes itself much too seriously. I mean, we have lines like, sometimes they're just lines and line deliveries that just make you maybe just burst out laughing. You have lines where Optimus Prime goes, "We were once a peaceful race of alien robots." And lines like, "Yeah, Mr. President, we believe a UFO has landed on the moon." And yeah, that's one of the things that made me optimistic about this movie. One of the reasons I liked the first movie is because they incorporated a government conspiracy theory into the plot. They tried to do that again this time with apparently the entire Apollo mission was designed to try and locate an alien spaceship that crashed on the moon in 1961. But the problem is, they go way too far with the conspiracy angle in this one. I mean, we have actors playing Presidents Kennedy, President Nixon, even Obama gets a brief shot that's completely unnecessary. But still, that's really something that I guess it's not really much to complain about. It's just kind of bugging me how you see these look-alike actors over here in the background, kind of out of focus, and in front of them you see the computer monitors, the archive footage of the same president there. And also, it's something that really didn't work well with the 3D. They tried to when they play archive footage on the screen, when you're wearing the 3D glasses, it's almost as if they tried to convert the archive footage into 3D. It just doesn't work very well. It's just kind of distracting. And as the story goes further along and goes on and on and on, like I said, this is a very dragged out movie. There's no reason it had to be 150 minutes long. But when the part of the story really kind of picks up is when a new Transformer appears. He's the one who's been buried on the moon since the 60s. His name is Sentinel Prime. He's voiced by Leonard Nimoy, aka Spock. And you have to give the voice actors credit. Given their dialogue is often even more ridiculous than that given to the humans, and since people like Peter Cullen, who voices Optimus Prime, have been playing this character for decades, but I still can't imagine that some of these people were able to say the dialogue with a straight face. But Leonard Nimoy, he has a pretty good job of voicing Sentinel Prime. And I don't want to get into too many plot details, but there's one thing that really kind of bugged me at the end. This is kind of how the plot involves this weird teleportation device. And like I said, this will only be maybe a minor spoiler, just offering a detail or two, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that if you drag part of a planet next to the atmosphere of another planet, both planets are going to be severely damaged by the gravitational pull. And there's absolutely no effects of that shown in the movie. I mean, they spent millions upon millions of dollars destroying Chicago needlessly, and with CGI action sequences, feels almost like a Roland Emmerich movie at times, like the Independence Day, with people being mowed down by robots and really kind of disturbing violence that wasn't necessary. But they don't even bother to show or care what the effects of gravity would have on this place. Really kind of, that really just kind of bugged me. And, and also just another little thing, with all the battle sequences, all the rather impressive action sequences, with the robots fighting each other, isn't it kind of silly that the real climactic battle that really means something is fought between Shia LaBeouf and Patrick Dempsey? Yeah, Patrick Dempsey's in this movie. He's playing some sort of slick businessman who's constantly a villain, and you never really understand why he's a villain or what side he's playing. But let me just get something out there. I've never really liked Patrick Dempsey, so seeing him get beat up, especially by someone as scrawny as Shia LaBeouf, pretty satisfying, I think. Still, as far as the movie itself goes, it's really stupid, really loud. Some impressive action sequences near the end. Some very good application of 3D, but unless you're a fan of the Transformers franchise, and unless you have some real investment in the characters already, there's really no reason for you to see this. I mean, I'm sure it'll make a lot of money, it'll be very well received by the fans, I think, but for everybody else, it's way too long, way too serious-minded, and in many ways is way too grim and violent. I mean, the fact that it takes itself so seriously really makes it stop being fun after a while. But if you like Transformers, you might like this movie. You might not. I give them props for going as all out as it did. I give them props for trying to go in a different direction from the Revenge of the Fallen. It's better than that. Not as good as the first one, but I don't recommend it. I'm sure other people will, but that's all I have for you now. And okay.